In this episode of the podcast, we're going to be talking about Lightroom versus Lightroom.
This is Twit.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of This Week in Photo. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson, and sitting next to me virtually is Alistair Jolly. Hey, Alistair, how's it going, man?
Hi, Frederick. Great to be back here, sitting just right next to you across the pond. But yeah, looking forward to having another conversation today about the wonderful world of photography.
Oh, it's so funny you say that. So the wonderful world of photography, it feels like that world has expanded. Well, I mean, it's been expanded. It's been wide in terms of multidisciplinary, but like with the latest toys that we have to play with in software, it feels like maybe a better way to say it is we have more capabilities than we've ever had before in terms of image making or, just being artistic or whatever. So it's fun. It's a fun time to be around. I never thought I'd see this kind of technology, with the AI stuff and all that. I didn't see that one coming. Did you?
Yeah. No, we've definitely got, as you say, more tools and more opportunities, but, sometimes it gets a little bit stifling, when you have too much and like you kind of, I can assume like starting out today must be quite daunting and, trying to know which direction to go in and which tools to use when there's such a plethora of opportunity. But it's definitely evolving.
Yeah, you gotta have the wherewithal to get through the analysis paralysis, right? Because you're right. It's like a photographer who is creating amazing work, but all they have is, one beat up body and a 50 mil lens, right? And a 10-year-old MacBook, that barely runs an old version of Photoshop, yet they're cranking out some ridiculous work. So that constraint drives the work, right? But what happens when you have supercomputers and cloud computing and AI and sky replacement and all the things, right? Does that mean we get less capable artists, or does that mean we get more capable artists because they have more powers, as it were? I don't know.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Time will tell, but great storytellers are going to be able to tell great stories no matter what tools they have, what quality those tools are. They can get their story told, and in this case, we're talking about telling stories through visual arts, right? But the great photographers are going to be great photographers no matter what era they are in with the technologies. So there's going to be great stuff to come. There's going to be a lot of bad stuff to come, but it's always been the same, no matter whether we were shooting with glass plate or whether we were shooting with 35 millimeter film or whether we're shooting digitally. There's a big bandwidth of people out there wanting to use it for great stuff.
Absolutely. And the other side of this, this is a good segue into the first story that I wanted to chat about today. And that's an adventure that you recently went on. And the segue is, we have all this capability on the technological side, right? But then when you go back to the nature side, which is arguably no matter generally how you slice it, looking at the photography market, landscape and outdoor photography is usually the biggest piece of the pie in terms of what, pros and amateur alike gravitate towards, right? Mm-hmm. So you recently went on an adventure that was kind of in that, the line of conservationism and all that. So, but there were some electric cars involved. So what was it? Where'd you go? And what came of it, or what is expected of it?
It was an adventure done in very comfortable vehicles. Yeah. And staying in hotels. Adventure's maybe not the right word. We went on, I'm just back from what was called the Mobilizing for Monuments road trip. Mobilizing for Monuments is a campaign that has been created by a whole bunch of, a kind of coalition of brands who are involved in the outdoor world, campaigning for the protection of some of the most incredible parts of the trip we were on was in the US. So we decided to go on this road trip and tell the stories of these places through, the visual filmmaking, photography, to showcase just what is achievable, what's at risk, what could be lost, what have we managed to save. So yeah, ourselves as Flickr went on a road trip together with our partners, Rivian. So we went in some lovely Rivian vehicles. Together, we're both members of the Conservation Alliance, and we did it so the Conservation Alliance, Rivian and Flickr went on this road trip. And we went from Denver all the way to Los Angeles via, some incredible parts of, America, from, a high mountain, high desert down through some great canyon lands into basically the backyard of many Californians. And the purpose of the trip was to showcase the work that the Conservation Alliance is trying to do. We visited national monuments that had recently been designated as monuments, so they were protected. So we went there to tell the story of those places. We visited some areas that were already designated as national monuments, but we want to see them expanded to protect more areas. And then most importantly, we visited areas that we're working on just now to try and get designated as national monuments to protect them for everybody to enjoy, well into the future. So yeah, an incredible trip. We realized that, as, conservationists can tell the story in data, right? They can show all the data, they can write, briefs and papers on just how incredible these parts of the world are. But when you take an image of it and you show that image to people, or you create a film, as we have done, and show that film to people, it really resonates way stronger than the written word can do in many cases. So as a photography brand, we wanted to use the power of photography to hopefully change the world for better by getting more national monuments designated in the US.
That's awesome. That's using the superpower of photography, to push the world. It's selfishly thinking the opportunities for great photos and preserving what that part of the planet looks like, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously environmental and the real picture, or the bigger picture, is where the target is. But for photographers looking at it as, okay, this is another place where I can go get some amazing photos on the planet before there are not really that many places left. Yeah. Conservationism from that standpoint absolutely makes sense. So you did that whole trek in Rivian electric vehicles. I know you're an electric vehicle driver, as am I. How was that trip up there? Just from a okay, I am in the wilderness and I'm in this vehicle that was designed for the wilderness, and we're on this this journey. How did it all feel on the road in situ?
Yeah, I mean, there's no denying the Rivian, pickup trucks and the SUVs that we had. We had 5 of them in total. Incredible vehicles, incredibly capable vehicles. And, some of the areas where we were out in the true wilderness, just having the confidence that these vehicles could get us anywhere we wanted to go was great. But the film does include some of that tension, or the road trip includes some of that tension of we were, in a very off-grid part of the world when it comes to charging vehicles. We left Denver. It was pretty straightforward, but as we headed down into southern Utah, northern Arizona, through places like Monument Valley, there is not a lot of charging capabilities there.
Feel a little range anxiety.
A lot of range anxiety. On a daily basis, that was one of the factors. We deliberately did a kind of 6-7 day road trip. We didn't want to make it too easy, so we did build in this little bit of tension of can we get from point A to point B, with the charging opportunities that are there, and then of course with having 5 vehicles, if you find one charger, you've created your own bottleneck because you're charging the first vehicle. So there was times we had to split up. There was times we had to find multiple hotels in these small rural parts of the Midwest. So yeah, it was an interesting experience from a charging perspective. But even that is, improving all the time. I would imagine trying to do it 2 or 3 years ago would have been dramatically different from doing it, last month. So yeah, great adventure for a great purpose. Hopefully people will get to see the film in the new year. And, we'll be showing the film obviously to important people who can hopefully designate these places that we want to see designated. But yeah, I learned so much on the trip about parts of the US I wasn't familiar with. I'm really well traveled in the US, but yeah, there was definitely some incredible areas that we went through that we want to see saved. A lot of these places are at risk from extraction, whatever that extraction might look like, whether it's oil, coal, uranium. So, there's a lot of pressure on these parts of the world. They're also hugely cultural significance to a lot of these places that are at risk, as well as them being incredibly beautiful and, open to public lands that should be open to everybody who wants to use them. And then as we gradually moved our way towards California, we then, were showcasing other risks. We went to San Gabriel Mountains just outside Palm Springs, which, is highly residential part of the world. It was quite a contrast from moving from the high desert down into California. And I was kind of like, why do we have to protect San Gabriel Mountains? It's it's a mountain range. It's surrounded by people that use it. It's not at risk of extraction. But then you realize that 18 million people live within 90 minutes of the San Gabriel Mountains, and it's basically at risk of being
18 million people live within what radius?
90 minutes drive. Yeah. So it's basically the playground for Californians in that part of the world. And, it's at risk of basically overuse. It's such a popular location. San Gabriel's mountains receive 4 million more visitors a year than the Grand Canyon. So
really,
it's a victim of its own success. So many people, so much footfall. So we want to see the sort of monument designations to these areas to be put in place, not to limit that use case, but to provide resources to manage it so that it can be maintained, and resources can put in for people who want to use it safely and correctly and that type of stuff. So yeah, there's a lot. It was interesting to experience all those different use cases of trying to protect these huge epic landscapes to these very popular kind of already used kind of recreational areas. So yeah, an incredible trip. I cannot wait for people to see it. Yeah,
I can't either. I can't wait to see it. But I got to tell you, this trip and having you on that trip or having you go on that trip gives me what was that show? Long Way Around. Have you seen that series with Ewan McGregor? So another Scott, right?
Yeah. So it's actually
on an electric vehicle.
It's actually a law that there has to be a Scottish person on these trips. So that's why I was there. But
it's established by the Enterprise, right?
Yeah, Ewan did the Long Way Up with Rivian.
Yeah.
But what was really interesting was when Ewan McGregor and Charlie did Long Way Up on their electric motorcycles. They had 2 Rivians with them, which I think were prototype number 1 and 2. Like they didn't even have dashboards in those Rivians. Wow. They were using I/O boxes to turn things on and off. So, we had a bit more comfort and a bit more, what's the word? Reassurance that our vehicles were, reassurance that our vehicles were, capable and well tested. And and it was pretty cool, driving in convoy in these vehicles and getting a lot of attention from people. So yeah, we're very proud as Flickr and Smugmugger members of the Conservation Alliance to work with them to create spaces that photographers love to use, and we want to allow photographers to continue to use them and have access to them for the right reasons.
Yeah, and help out how and when we can, right?
Yeah. And
So
the goal, the goal is obviously we created lots of video content. We created, a good bunch of social content. If you haven't seen the road trip, you can head over to Flickr's Instagram account and you'll see there's a little highlight from all the Instagram stories and reels that we created while we were on the road. But obviously we captured a whole bunch of content to put into the film, which, as I say, will be a film that will be used to, try and convince people to designate these places as monuments, but also it'll be great content for people to see and hopefully open their eyes just to some areas that, although close to many other popular locations in the US, maybe aren't as well known or as well experienced as, the Grand Canyons and the Horseshoe Bends of this world, which we all know. But, there's other places out there, Marble Canyon being one of them, which was just absolutely incredible.
Wow. What a trip. What an opportunity. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So,
really
and that comes out, when is the film premiere, as it were?
We don't have a premiere date yet. We're obviously heavy in the edit world, going through many hours of footage from multiple cameras and, so we're still in the edit stage, but we're looking to try and get that out very early in the new year. And the quicker we can get the film out, the quicker we can hopefully create some action on these areas. Hopefully at the start of the year, January, February somewhere.
Very good.
But I don't have a date yet. Just teasing it.
Watch
teasing
this
it
space.
Out
Watch. Yeah, we'll put it out on TWIP and
for sure,
and everywhere. So they'll see it.
Yeah, and I think once we're ready to launch it, we'll probably bring in some other people maybe onto the show that can chat with you and I, Frederick. We had incredible photographer with us, Milo Fowler. You can find him on Instagram at Navajo Milo, right in his home backyard. So to have him on the trip with us, with his own Rivian vehicle as well, was really cool. Incredible photographer, great friend. So great to have him along the trip. So we'll hopefully get some of these people on the show to chat about their photography and their experience.
Yeah. We should do we'll do a panel roundtable type thing and debrief on it with visuals and bring in some video and roll that and all that. Like, hopefully there's some bloopers that Anton can pull out.
Oh, there's definitely lots of bloopers, the odd crashed drone or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nice cliffhanger. Like it. Nice. All right, let's switch gears and talk about today's or this week's topic du jour, for me at least, and I think a lot of other people, and it's Lightroom, revisiting the case of Lightroom V Lightroom, right? And when I say Lightroom V Lightroom, for those in the know, I mean Lightroom Classic versus Lightroom was mobile, now is just Lightroom. So there's Lightroom Classic, which is the one that we've all grown up with, and then now just Lightroom, which is their more, and that's the problem, right? Trying to describe
it. Wasn't there a CC in there as well at some point? Yeah,
there was, right. I think it's those two now, but trying to describe that one versus the other one, people who may or may not care, it's like one is newer and does different things as a different, more consumers audience, and one is supposedly more pro, but still has a foot in legacy, versus the other one having a backwards foot in pro with a forefoot into the future. So I don't know.
It's
that's
complicated.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's complicated.
It is. Like, how do you make that decision? Like, as a photographer, like blank slate photographer, you're coming in, you know what you're doing, and you're digital now, and you have to make a choice of your digital asset management and raw post-processing software. What if you were in that situation, you had to advise someone, how would you help them? There's no one right answer, but how would you point them in the right direction?
Yeah, that's one of the things when you see coming in with a blank slate. Like, very few of us are, in our world, but there's obviously that whole trench of people who are coming fresh to the world of Lightroom. Clearly there's the major distinction is Lightroom Classic is desktop based only with localized storage. Lightroom is predominantly cloud based, although now with local storage too.
Now it's got local storage, right?
Yeah, right. So, but predominantly it was a cloud based solution, allowing you to have your images stored in the cloud so that you could work on them on any of your devices, including desktop. So you could use the desktop Lightroom app.
Yeah. Phone, laptop,
iPad,
tablet, desktop,
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Tablet. So that was the main differential, was where your images were being stored and where you were editing them. Lightroom Classic is desktop only, local storage, but the platform is more powerful, has more features. But there's definitely, I mean, I think we've all known for a long time, like surely the two of them are just going to become one product at some point. And I think now with Lightroom adding, and that was a big add this year, adding local storage this year was a fairly big step towards, I think, the two of them merging together. So now not only can you have all your images in the cloud and edit them on any device with Lightroom, but you can use a local storage device. So you can use your hard drive, your RAID system, whatever you might have. But in some ways it also complicated the story a bit more, right? It didn't have this clear distinction now. So I still have a hard time knowing which one to recommend. Because they do different things.
It breaks down even further than that. So which one do you recommend? Even if you decide on Adobe, right? Okay.
Yep.
Versus any of the other players out there, Capture One and, Luminar, whatever your flavor is. But then there's the other side of it, right? There's your consumer life. So you've got, if you say, okay, yeah, whatever, I'm going to future-proof myself and I'm going with Lightroom, the new one, right? Now that has local storage. Yeah, there are some shortcomings, but I'm going to go in that direction and all my pro work is going to be on all my devices. Everybody's happy. And I'm going to, make my galleries in SmugMug and, people can buy my stuff, et cetera. So you got all that piece of it set up. What about your personal life? So do you standardize on that tool for your entire photographic world, or do you use, assuming you're on the iPhone, do you use Apple Photos, and that whole cloud ecosystem for sharing kids' first steps and, ziplining and all that stuff? So how do you break? I know there's no one right answer. How do you break it down? Do you have all your stuff in one basket, or do you split it up?
Yeah, well, of course I have all my images in one place, and I think you know what I'm going to say where they are, right? They're all on SmugMug. But
I know where they are.
Right, including family stuff, because all my family have access to it. And there's one, as a SmugMug aficionado, there's one killer feature about Lightroom Classic, and that is the plugin that we have capable with Lightroom Classic. You can do all the things in your SmugMug account through the publish feature that you can do directly on SmugMug. With Lightroom in the cloud, it's not, we don't have that fully featured plugin. The capabilities aren't there within Lightroom. So we have a connector where you can upload your images, but it's not as fully featured as the classic one. If someone wanted a recommendation on which of those two Adobe products to choose, and they were new to the world, I would tell them to go Lightroom. Clearly, Adobe is pushing Lightroom as, the place where they're going to develop those features long term. It's going to catch up with the technologies that are within Lightroom Classic. You can already do way more in Lightroom than you used to be able to do when they first launched it. And you can pretty much do most stuff that you want to do. The one caveat, though, is how much are you willing to pay for storage? Because if you're editing everything in the cloud and everything's going in the cloud, those tiers, those storage tiers at Adobe, they soon add up. They soon become something that you really have to put some thought into as to storing your stuff locally and just having a kind of backup here. But
well, if you do that, because with Lightroom you can specify which directories are going to go and be in the cloud and which ones will remain local. And then presumably, I don't know if you're going to say this, but for whatever is local, you can have another backup solution for like your library in its entirety as kind of a cold storage or warm storage. And, then use just whatever's, whatever projects you're working on right now, you can designate that directory tree to be synced up to the cloud so that you have instant access and ubiquity across devices. Is that the ideal flow though? Or do you just give Adobe or whomever, enough money to cover the size of your storage needs and be done with it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Photography is, I always said many, many times, photography is all about compromise. There's always a compromise to be made. And I think even no matter which of those two versions of Lightroom you choose, you're going to have to compromise something, whether it's money or access. If you use Lightroom and you store your stuff locally, then you have to compromise on the fact that it's not available on all your devices, which is one of the killer features. Even just now, when you have an attached storage item, if you have a hard drive attached to your Lightroom account and you then send that image to the cloud side of your Lightroom account, it stores a version of it. It's not storing that actual file. So the two of them have to be kept in sync. So yeah, it's gradually moving in the right direction, but it's still, even for those of us who have been in the Adobe world, in the Lightroom world for many, many, many years, it's still complicated, right? I still have to wrap my head around what does it mean by having Lightroom in the cloud, but also having attached storage. It just adds that little level of complication, which, Lightroom was supposed to remove, right? Everything's in the cloud, and everything's on every device.
Yeah.
Suddenly
and
people...
now it kind of, it fragments again, and now you have to make decisions over what's here and what's there. And if you don't somehow automate that, then you're the human single point of failure in there, right? And you would be the one that gets you bitten when you have a file that is somewhere not where it needs to be at that point in time when you need it. So then what's the solution to that? So I don't know. What is the solution? Is there like a given infinite resources, let's say, and you can afford your Tony Stark and you're going to build your backup, for your photography? What would that look like? Would it be a rack system that's then backed up to Amazon, and maybe for redundancy, Google as well. And then you just have a portal into that. Like, what's the holy grail for storage? I feel like for the last decade plus 2 decades or whatever, we've been patching it, right? Like, okay, if we do this, we can get over there. If we back this up to Dropbox and put this over there, then I can kind of get there. Or maybe I'll use, this new cloud tool to sync everything and put it all together. Like there doesn't seem to be the Ferrari of solutions that, okay, just get it done and make it work perfectly if it does all these things. How come we don't have that?
Yeah, this is 2023.
Build it, Alistair, build it.
We should have. We're meant to have flying cars by now. Why do we not have? Why do we not have that?
No.
And listen, even if there was that perfect solution, the one place to rule them all for storage, I would never recommend anybody only has one version, one copy of their image in that perfect solution. For years, I've been advocating. No,
not even.
You need a solution.
Not even as a thing, like a company or whatever. I'm talking about a solution which could be a group of disparate solutions, but
like a workflow.
Putting these 4 things together is the standard, right? It's expensive or not, but this is the way that you should, be operating your photographic personal life and your photographic professional life. That's it. Yeah. Okay. Now let's move on. We've solved that. Now let's move on to some other stuff. Like, how come we can't solve that piece? It seems
we don't have all the pieces of the puzzle, and at the moment we have to make those compromises. Like even myself, I've said it many times before. I'm a Capture One user now. I was Lightroom for many, 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 many years. And I went through the pain point of having to transition to a new platform. So I will, any work stuff or something I think is, of value, or something I want to promote or sell, whatever it be, that's all edited in Capture One. Family stuff goes through a slightly different process where I'll probably ingest it into Capture One and use their raw converter to make it a JPEG. I'm currently running it through Radiant for, my family stuff. I'll run it through Radiant to get it to 99% of as good as it could be, and then share it with the family through SmugMug. So, but all that workflow, there's a compromise. Like when I find an image that's a family image, but it's a really great image and I want to edit it really well, I have to take it out of that workflow and put it back into the other workflow. And, and then if my workflow at the moment is desk-based, it's desktop-based, I don't have that editing in the cloud that Lightroom gives you. So that piece of the puzzle for me is missing. Although we're getting it with Capture One Mobile, but I
think a lot of this stuff feels like, including not just photography, but also like the podcasting stuff. Like we're experimenting with some different tools right now as we record this show that is a cloud-based tool that enables us to do a lot of things that we can't do with traditional desktop tools. It feels like as bandwidth increases and becomes more ubiquitous, and faster and smarter chips that are making better decisions and all that, I feel like we're moving, like a lot of this, where should I store stuff and backing this up, I feel like that's maybe covered wagon type territory compared to where things will be when we have ubiquitous high speed internet access through wireless everywhere all the time. So now everything is storage, right? It's just automatically in the cloud, and you're shooting and it's in the cloud, and it's not local for the most part anywhere. It's dangerous, obviously. It's very single point of failure thinking when you're like that. But I can't help but feel like where we are now, like it feels like Drobos. We know how Drobos went away, right? It feels like we're in that era of where we should be, i.e. far behind, versus where we should be right now or in the near future in terms of some sort of ubiquity of storage that you have, and it becomes available to you all the time on all devices, versus whether it's your car on the screen in there, or your watch, or your phone, or your tablet, or glasses, or whatever. It's just your data, and it's in the cloud, and you don't have to worry about it going anywhere, let alone which RAID system should I buy, or where should I back this all up to? And
there's one hurdle there, though. There's one hurdle.
Yeah.
The hurdle is
money.
Who's going to pay for it? Like, if we have this cloud that just everything goes into, as working for a brand who, has one of the largest clouds in the photography space, that world isn't getting cheaper. That world isn't getting less expensive. In some ways, it's getting more expensive and more complicated. So, and the world is leaning towards consumers expecting it for free. So we might be in this space where we're creating all these incredible tools, and we're creating all these incredible cloud-based tools and cloud-based AI. But ultimately, at some point, when they all send it to the cloud, they have to be able to be sustainable. And we see the problem with a lot of these companies is they can't ultimately afford to be successful, because when they become successful, they need the cloud storage. Suddenly they have to monetize their product in a way that they didn't want to, and it disappears, or people don't pay for it, or they move on to the next free thing. So although we are creating at a very fast pace all these new tools and new opportunities, still has to be paid for, and there's still a commercial risk with all of them.
A guy can fantasize, right? I mean, come on.
I'm just going to shoot your fantasy out there. Though.
I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was feasible or plausible. I just say what I want, right? I like saying. Yeah, but
sorry
that's
to
more
be the
Black
realist.
Mirror. No, I will continue to like science fiction because
Absolutely.
in the multiverse, that's a reality that's occurring somewhere, right? Somewhere, someone has that capability. So I don't know, man. It's fun stuff. There's so many choices out there for photographers, and they change every single day. The way that we capture, which we're going to talk about a couple of those ways in our picks of the week, right? So the way that we capture imagery, how easy it is, what the norm is when it comes to what a good picture looks like, and not to mention all the decisions around, the morality and ethics of retouching. I've seen these apps that will just, I mean, I feel like a grandpa, which I am, but I feel like a grandpa saying, they have these apps today. You just put a photo in there and it makes you beautiful, right? And they do. It's yeah.
There
That's my
is.
old man impression.
I need to know that app.
Yes, yes. Facetune.
So
Facetune is one. Face
yeah,
app is another one. So
but
those kinds of apps. So where's it going?
finishing off the conversation, I want to ask you, when it comes to Lightroom versus
Yeah.
Lightroom,
Yeah.
where you asked me where I was at, where are you at when someone's asking you and you get asked a lot, what do you recommend? What are you recommending, and what are you personally using?
Okay, good. So the answer is it depends on the recommendation thing. That's kind of like which camera should I buy? Right? It
Yeah.
depends. What's your budget? What are your friends shooting? So you can, borrow their lenses, etc. But from a recommendation standpoint, it kind of overlays what my overall mindset around this photography stuff is. It's fluid. So there's right now, currently, my flow for my like happy snaps and all that, because I have this ecosystem at home, which is largely Apple based, right? So there's Apple TVs here. There's, we've all got iPhones and tablets and, all the things. So it makes sense for the happy snaps and family shares. And this extends beyond the family, from this family outward to the other nodes of the family. So the sharing bit of that becomes much easier, right? When you're just kind of surrendering to the Apple ecosystem and saying, okay, I'm just going to use you as intended to see if I can get there from here. And it's a frictionless route, right? That they lay out if you use their stuff. So we're trying that right now for the family happy snap sharing stuff. So that's my recommendation on that side, is to, give that a shot. The other piece of it, though, and the reason I say it's fluid is because there's another node to that. So the photos that don't necessarily need to be, a photo of somebody doing something silly in the kitchen does not need to be around for posterity. What does need to be around for posterity is holiday events and, these kind of more gravity events, life events that happen. And those get shared through SmugMug and through a series of galleries on SmugMug, and everything up from there. When I go into, like, if I'm doing a photo for, even if it's a friend, a portrait or something, all that. So it's SmugMug. What's driving the pro stuff is Lightroom Classic right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking at Lightroom, especially considering I just had an interview with Brian Matias, who was very much waving the flag for Lightroom and being all in on that ecosystem.
Yep.
So I'm looking at that, but right now it's Classic that drives that. And then the happy snaps are usually on the phone. So I use a series of apps on the phone for post-processing, Lightroom included, and then exporting out to wherever it needs to go, whether it's the camera roll that then, gets tagged and goes wherever the ultimate destinations are. Yeah. So that's the flow. So yeah,
I knew you were going to say Classic, and it's a legacy thing, right? It's you've been in there for a long time. It's works great with SmugMug plugins and other publishing tools, so it makes sense. Yep. My belief is that with the introduction of local attached storage to Lightroom, we have taken a bigger step towards a pretty huge step towards both products merging, which I think is the ultimate sensible goal for both of them. As you get all those features capable on both platforms, bring the more modern user interface experience from Lightroom to Classic, have it doing some of the cool AI features, some of the deeper AI features that's in Classic, being able to do them in Lightroom, and then have that ultimate choice over where your storage is, whether it's in the cloud or whether it's locally. Then suddenly you have one product. And I think I'd be surprised in 5 years' time if we still have two products, but who ultimately knows?
Yeah, I think sooner.
I think sooner,
obvious.
but I'd be surprised if in 5 years' time we're still having this conversation. But yeah, I think we're moving pretty fast in that direction of a single product, which will be great. Like it's, that would be great for everybody to then not have to make a choice, make a compromise. You just then have to educate yourself on where you're putting your images and where you're storing them and ultimately where they are, because that's going to be the confusing bit about where's this one? Is this one on my desktop? Is it on my RAID system? Is it in the cloud? Like that needs to be the part of the user experience that they really focus on making intuitive and educating people.
And not just for the user either, because, let's morbidly assume that, we will all not be around at some point, but our images may well be around, much longer than we are. So how do you ensure that they are properly distributed, accessible, and, all the things so that your successors can carry them forward? As, presumably you want them to be, you don't want all your work to disappear when you disappear. You want, someone to take care of it and pay it forward. So how do you take care of that and making plans for that? Whether it's something as simple as a list of passwords to get into your SmugMug accounts or wherever, something like that, or being more cognizant of that contingency, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Because all that rolls in together.
You're going to leave me your Lightroom passwords and your will? Is that what you're...
ABC 123. We discussed
last will and
this,
testimony. Right? Yeah. Password is password.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, man. This is good. I love this. I know we're gonna move on to picks. What are we at? Oh yeah, like 40 minutes. We're gonna move on to picks of the week, but I just want to take a second to draw a circle, as we say, or in Silicon Valley. I want to take a second to double click on the fact that I love this kind of back and forth discussion format, this host, co-host thing. I love the kind of meandering feeling of that kind of conversation versus the, not in replacement of, but in addition to the strict one-on-one interviews that Twit has been for a while.
Yeah,
so,
where potentially, potentially someone has an agenda or is there to represent, of course I represent a brand, but on this show, trying to be agnostic, but it slips through sometimes.
Yeah. Died in the wool, do they say? Or died in the wool. Cool. All right, let's move on to our picks of the week. So the picks of the week, to remind the folks, is a segment that I'm bringing back from Twip of olden days, where the hosts and the co-hosts would pick a piece of software, hardware, educational material, or even a tip that that they wanted to recommend to the TWIP audience that week. So we called it the Pick of the Week segment. Alistair Jolly, what is your pick of the week?
Oh, I got hardware this week, which is fun. It's always fun when it's a piece of hardware. Did I mention I was on a road trip?
You did?
So,
yeah, a short one. It was a short, easy one. Gas-powered cars or something?
Being on this, the Mobilizing for Monuments road trip, where we created a whole bunch of content, as I said earlier. And I decided on this trip to predominantly shoot on iPhone. So I had the new iPhone with me, but I took myself a little stabilizer. So this is DJI's OM6, Osmo Mobile 6. And I've had a few of these over the years, but this was the first one I bought that was foldable. So a stabilizer that literally can fit in my pocket. And that was one of the big selling features. As I mentioned earlier, everything has a compromise. There are compromises to the fact that it can fold, but being able to capture footage on the new iPhone 15, which is just ridiculous. The video content that can come from that. The iPhone has great stabilization built into it. Like if you take video on that, you'll be super impressed in how stable it is. But having a gimbal still adds that little extra dimension to the cinematography feel of some of the stuff that we were doing. So yeah, this little gimbal got a ton of use in the desert. Folds out real quick. And then your phone attaches magnetically to the gimbal. As soon as you attach it, it opens the app. You can shoot with the native iPhone app. You can shoot with most apps and just use the gimbal to stabilize it. Filmic Pro native app, Blackmagic's new app as well, which is really great. But if you use the DJI app, then it brings a whole bunch of features and a whole bunch of tracking modes and follow you modes and all that type of stuff. It was really, really fun. It was great to use. Also comes a little tripod attachment at the bottom, so you can do tracking motions with it. When you have it sit down, you can do time lapse, loads of built-in little features. So when you're on a road trip like that, where you're trying to create video content, you're trying to create social content, you're trying to create video and stills, and then throw in the ability to do time-lapse, motion time-lapse. It's a really useful piece of kit combined with the DJI app. It has a built-in selfie stick, so you can extend it, which is handy. You can, do some of those really cool panning shots with it over the edge of a canyon. It almost looks like you're flying a drone over there, but you're doing it with the longer kind of selfie stick feel. Because it's folding, there's a little bit of limitation in its movement when you want to do some nice big pan shots up the way. You can work around that, use some different techniques. But yeah, great little piece of kit. Traveled, did a whole bunch of social sort of vlogging with it as I traveled to and during and after the road trip. Captured, great video content with the combination with the iPhone. Did that both horizontally and vertically pretty easily with one button. So, you're nice. shooting for video content, you've got it horizontal. As soon as you want to do a social piece of content, you hit one button and it flips vertically. And yes, I'm now doing vertical video, but only for social. So yeah, go check it out. Another great little piece of kit from DJI. Big selling feature for me, as well as all the bells and whistles it has, was the compact nature of it. Really, really enjoyed being able to have it in my pocket wherever I went.
I love it. It. Very cool. Those things are invaluable. And we've talked about this I've talked about it with guests on This Week in Photo before, but the increasing no-brainerness of using the phone, right? Yeah. For photography, just because of all the things. It's a full-on computer, and the optics and the computational photography driving those optics in that phone are, science fiction in terms of quality, especially when you contrast it to, what we had just 10 years ago. It's insane what those things can do. I mean, you add something like that gimbal on it and, get some good audio, you're done. I mean, go ahead, go forth and create a movie.
And we were shooting on the iPhone 15 in 4K ProRes log, which, it's the first time we've done that on a trip, on any of our films. So there'll be, we're starting to edit some of that now to see just how it looks and how usable it is with, with the rest of the cameras that we used. Yeah. But yeah, it was a great opportunity to try out some of these new features of the 15 and the new iOS. But yeah,
I'm curious.
The gimbal was a no-brainer.
Yeah, when you were shooting with the phone, were you shooting to external storage or internal?
Yeah, when you're shooting ProRes log 4K, it's big files. Like that is beefy big files. So we had a small little SD, which is pretty cool because of the thread on the bottom. I can screw, I don't have it to hand, but I can screw in a little clamp that then I can attach the external SSD drive to.
Yeah. Yep.
And then attach that to the camera. The one little tip I would give anybody who tries that is when you have the camera on a gimbal So the camera's attached to the gimbal. The gimbal motors are doing its thing. The weight of a USB cable can obviously impact the gimbal. But more than the weight, the flexibility of that USB cable. If you have a USB cable that's pretty stiff and rubbery, then it's going to affect the movement of the gimbals. The fairly soft braided ones that come with a lot of the iPhones now, it worked really well. You just have to be cautious to give it enough slack and enough room to move that it's not going to interfere with the gimbal movement. But yeah. It's those files are pretty big when you're shooting ProRes log. So yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I'm curious to see what that's going to look like, because those are, Apple famously revealed that they shot their the latest MacBook Pro announcement on
That's
iPhone
right.
15.
It's a Halloween special one. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was surprising. Yeah. The negative side of that was
they had the full cinema rig. Yeah, they had the full team there. Yeah. They had riggers, they had lights. They were on a major film set. It just so happened to be that the camera was an iPhone. Suit. Yeah. Good lighting. That's all you need, right?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. All the other stuff is just pushing production quality, but the image is coming from that same little thing that you have in your back pocket. So it's crazy.
What a time to be alive.
Science fiction. Science fiction. So
Frederick, what about you? What is your pick of the week, sir?
My pick of the week is, okay, I'm going to try a little magic here. Let's see if I wait for it. Are these
you got yourself some sunglasses? What's the big, I don't get it. What's the big deal?
Look at that. All right. Yeah, of course we're playing. These are the Meta Rayban smart glasses, and I got them for my birthday actually. So, and I never went. So here's the thing. I had those Amazon glasses years ago that they're Alexa capable and all the things. You can speak to them and do all that. Never wore the things. They were ugly. The battery didn't last that long, and it was a cure in search of a disease, is what it was. Right? So these come along. I see these, I saw the reviews popping through my YouTube feed, and I was like, more of the same. I'm not going to use those either. But then I got them for my birthday, right? And I tried them, and I'm using them. So these were are surprisingly useful, but not so useful in one critical way that I'll tell you at the end of this. So useful in the respect of just the overall specs and the aesthetics of them. These are Ray-Ban glasses. They're in the Wayfarer style. So, it's not like you look like you're walking around with Google Glass on and people can tell that you have a computer on your head, and they're sunglasses, right? There is no readout on the lenses at all. These aren't augmented reality or anything. These are regular old lenses that you can replace for a prescription if you want and do all the things. All the magic of these glasses are in the fact that there are 5 microphones on the glasses for beamforming and making sure that when you're doing phone calls, you have a clear voice to the other side. There are 2 slit speakers above my ears here that fire sounds down into my ear that sound surprisingly good, right? And they're surprisingly isolating from the people around you. So if I have it at full volume and someone's standing right next to me, they can make out the lyrics of the sound. But if I turn it down to a normal sort of volume and people are a normal 6 feet away from me, you can't even hear it at all. It just sounds like you're listening to a podcast. You can totally listen to a podcast and carry on about your day with these glasses on. So that was the first thing that was really cool, just those overall specs of the audio. But the video is one camera. It's a 1080 camera. I believe it's 1080, maybe 4K. I believe it's 4K. I'm going to say 4K and then be proven wrong. But it's in a vertical orientation permanently. So it does not shoot horizontal video. It always shoots vertical video. And you trigger it there's a little shutter button right at the top on the temple here. You press it once to take a photo and press and hold it and wait for the audio kind of beep, and that'll let you know it's recording, as will a light in kind of on the inside in your line of sight will let you know you're recording. And there's a light on the outside that lets other people know that you're recording, but it's not a red light. It's just the white light, which a lot of people won't know what that means. If it was red, it would probably be more obvious that you're recording, but it's white. So I don't know how I feel about that. So that's that bit. So now you can record your day and kind of send it to the app, where then you can share it out through social media, etc., whether it be a photo or video. And then and the volume. So of course these are speakers, so you can connect and play your YouTube or your Spotify, Apple Music, or whatever, and listen to that throughout the day. On the temple here, this is a touchpad, so you can swipe forward. It's a traditional kind of AirPod feel, where 2 times forward skips to the next song, or once forward skips to the next song, 3 times backwards goes all the way to the previous song. Tap once to play and pause. All that is kind of in the temple here. A stroke is the volume, so you can control the volume on and off that way, or tapping once in a call will mute your microphone. So all that's pretty cool. The killer piece of this, though, for me so far, aside from all the video stuff that I've been using a lot, surprisingly, has been the fact that this has Meta's Llama 4. I forget what model it is, but it's basically a Chat GPT, their large language model, embedded in the headset or in the glasses. So with a key phrase, you just say, "Hey, META," speak the word, it will activate like Siri, and you can speak to it and basically give it a verbal prompt, and it will speak the results of that prompt into your ear. I can't emphasize how interesting it is to have glasses like this on that are really not obtrusive at all, but then it feels like you're a superhuman with a photographic memory, because I can remember, and whatever I see, I can remember it, right? And I have access to the sum total of almost all of mankind at my beck and call, right? It's like superpowers. Ask it any question and it will tell you.
You think
discreetly,
you
no
do
less,
think you're
right?
Tony Stark with, what was it, Jarvis in your ear, right?
That's totally what it feels like. In fact, I'm going to start recording now. Look at this. Okay, so this is Meta, right? So I'm recording me recording the screen, talking about the device that I'm recording the screen about, and then I'll overlay this in the actual video. So just so you can see the quality, and you can get a look at what my whole setup looks like over here. So yeah, they're pretty cool. Yeah, they're pretty cool. So they come in 2 sizes. This is the regular size, or standard. I forget how they name it. And then there's a large or extra large size, which are bigger for larger heads, I guess. Yeah, and then glasses come in sunglasses, which is the one I'm wearing. You get them in transitions. So, clear on the inside, and you go in the sun, they get darker, or you can get your own prescription lenses built for these. The glasses themselves, we picked these up at Best Buy for like $349. So likely they'll be cheaper, around the holidays. And I called in to see what it would cost to put my prescription in the glasses, and it was another $300 or so. So if you want these, which is still 600 and change, let's call it $700, that's still under like a good pair of, designer prescription glasses, right? So they're all in that kind of around the $1,000 range. So, but with a supercomputer on your head and a photographic memory and all that. So, so if you dig the style, I guess that would be the one thing, because they come in 2 styles, actually, this Wayfarer style and a more rounded, kind of, I don't want to say it's not feminine, if that's a thing. I think they're more just like rounded glasses. If you have a more round face, those would probably fit your face better, I'm thinking. I don't know.
More stylized.
These fit my face. Yeah, they're just a different style. But so I'd say give them a shot.
What these truly are, folks, is this is the answer to what do you buy the man who has everything for his birthday? That's what the
That's it. Totally. That's it. Yeah. You hit it actually right on the head, because I was not expecting these at all. And if I was lusting after these glasses, even the top tech reviewers were lusting or were gushing over these, right? So, but for some reason they were not on my radar to lust after. But had they been on my radar, I probably would have just bought them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As we get to that holiday part of the year when people are asking you, what would you want for the holidays? What do you want for Christmas? Whatever. It's difficult when we're the type of people who, when we see something we want, we're like, yeah, I'm just going to go buy that. And we have all the tech we want.
Yeah.
Not easy. But there you go.
Yeah.
Meta glasses.
That's what happens. That's what happens when your job is your, you do what you love and love what you do.
So what's the official name of those glasses? Rayban Metas?
Yeah, exactly. So either the Meta Rayban glasses or the Rayban Meta glasses. I think it probably depends on which company you ask.
Right.
But those two keywords will get you into the right place. Or just go to one of their websites, you'll find them. They're on Amazon, they're everywhere, so you can get them.
I'll use people who like to get version 1 early adopters. Go now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, these are kind of my style of glass anyway, right? So these are my up here my regular everyday glasses, right? So they're kind of thick black frames, with lenses in there. So now my glasses just started playing audio for some reason.
Someone talking in his ear, and it's not me.
It's so weird. It's so weird. It's like a soundtrack just started playing in my ear. So yeah. Oh, one last thing about these glasses. So they come with a case, a Ray-Ban case, which is in the car. So I can't show it to you. But it's just, if you've seen a Ray-Ban case, it looks like that with the addition of a red or a light on the front of the flap that indicates the level of charge on the glasses, because the case is also double as a battery to recharge them. And you get 3 hours roughly per full charge on it. And you can recharge it, I think they say about 5 or 6 times with the case. So
that was something I should ask, is how you charge them, because yet another thing in your life that needs charged. Now your glasses.
Your glasses now. Glasses, your watch, your tablet, your phones, your computer, everything, your car, everything.
There's a whole list of stuff.
Everything. Yeah. That's it. All right, my friend. Well, let's wrap this one up. Any final words you want to throw at the TWIP audience before we shut this one down?
No, thank you as always for listening, TWIP audience. It's so much fun to be able to do this and have a nice chat with Frederick when I'm available to it. But hopefully for the next few weeks I'm around, not on any road trips. So we'll see you back here very soon for me.
Very cool. All right. Similar sentiment from me. And I would challenge folks to go out and, actually stay in, considering the topic of this episode. And if you haven't played with and compare the different versions of Lightroom lately, I would dive in and play with them and go watch a couple of YouTube videos on what the changes that they've made to Lightroom versus Lightroom Classic, and see if that line hasn't moved yet. For you to move from Classic to regular Lightroom or back in the other direction. So, challenge you to check it out and let us know what you think. All right, Alistair, have a good one, and I will see you around the virtual halls of SmugMug.
This is TWIP.